Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. After my random review of Butt Boy, I thought we'd get back to doing a perfectly normal film, so today's random review is Takashi Miike's The Great Yokai War from 2005. Perfectly normal. It's just because I heard recently through Nazarene Broad, because as you know I don't really keep track of what films are coming out really. Takashi Miike is doing a sequel to The Great Yokai War 16 years after the original film, so I thought I would revisit the 2005 film. I haven't seen it for a long time, so I rewatched it, even though I had the kind of feeling I just watched it last week. It's one of those films I pretty much remembered everything that happened, even though I haven't seen it for years, because it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a perfectly normal film. This is one of Miike's kids' films, even though it's quite strange and disturbing in places. It's kind of a mix of the Never-ending Story with Clive Barker's Nightbreed, with a little bit of the Arthurian legend thrown in. So if that sounds like it might be your cup of tea, then I would check it out before the sequel comes out. It stars, again, apologies for any Japanese viewers because I'm probably going to butcher some names. It stars Ryunosuke Kamiki as Tadashi, who's a young kid from the city who's moved out to the country, kind of gets bullied by kids at his school, and there's a kind of festival that they do where they pick the Kirin Rider who is going to save humanity. It's about folklore and myths based on the yokai, or kind of sprite mythology, kind of based on a book which then kind of got turned into mangas, but it's more about Japanese kind of mythology and kind of sprites in nature. It also stars Hiroyuki Miyazaki, Asata, Etsushi Toyokawa as the villain Lord Kato, who wants to turn humanity into darkness, and Chiaki Kuriyama as Aji, his sidekick essentially. You also recognise her from Battle Royale and Kill Bill and lots of other Japanese films. So they use this force that is essentially created from mankind abusing the planet, mankind's throwing away things that are still useful. You know, at one point a character says, you throw away shoes because they're dirty or they don't fit you anymore, and it's just this feeling of abuse and neglect that kind of manifests itself, that Lord Kato and Aji use to get humanity into darkness by they capture all these sprites and put them into this chamber, and it turns them into mechanical monsters essentially that wreak havoc in the real world. So Tadashi is selected as being the Kirin Rider, which obviously in the real world is just like this kind of ceremony that doesn't actually mean anything, but in reality it means a lot. He comes across this little hamster cat type creature who's actually one of the sprites. He leads them up the mountain because to show his worth he has to pull a sword out of a stone, or sword out of its stone sheath, to prove that he's worthy. And then he meets these other sprites and they go on an adventure against the two baddies. See, simple and straightforward. So we have a river princess, Kawahime, who has had previous with Lord Kato. She has very nice, smooth and silky thighs, which everybody seems to have a good feel of. Again, it's a kids' film. We have Shoho, who is just this character who's red, but whenever danger's about or he has an idea, a string of his hair will flash and then go erect when he knows danger's about. We also have Kawataro, who is a river sprite who reminds you a little bit of Sandy, if you remember the TV show Monkey. And he's a bit like a turtle who obviously freaks Tadashi out initially. We have a random character who's like a bean washer who comes into, who's very important near the end of the film. He's always counting his beans. Again, like I said, it's a very straightforward, simple tale. But as this film goes on, you meet all these sprites. Again, very much like Clive Barker's Nightbreed. You know, you have to watch the film like 2 or 3 times to actually see all the characters in the background. You can have cat-like people, and you know, there's an umbrella with one big eye and a big tongue. It's just lots of random thing. Again, the creature design, obviously, it's just go mad with the creature design. It doesn't matter if we just see them in the background. The film has kind of clunky CGI just because it's of the budget, so when the sprites are thrown into the pit with this malevolent force and they come out and they're mechanical, you know, the CGI is not great, but there's a kind of charm to it. Ryan Rasuke Kimiki, who plays Tadashi, is likeable. You know, it's not a film with a really annoying kid in it, which is rare. So you do root for him, you're on his side. Again, obviously, they don't go into huge details. You know, he's not extremely bullied, but he is kind of picked on just because he's an outsider. So you kind of automatically identify with him. Again, because he's not annoying, you do like him. It's just a lot of fun. It is, as you'd expect, it does have moments of like creepiness and darkness. You know, some of the creature designs pretty scary. Again, I'm not sure what age group of child this film was aimed at, but I think as an adult you might get more pleasure from it. There's a wonderful little nod to Gamera for all you kaiju fans. It's just a lot of fun. There's a really good song about beans in it. The closing end credit titles song is absolutely wonderful as well. You'll be humming that for days afterwards. It's just one of those Miike films that, again, it's a little rough around the edges, as quite a lot of his films are. I'm not sure anybody would claim he's made a perfect film, but again, it's another example when Miike's at his best. He shows you stuff that you've never really seen before, even within the conventions of the child adventure becomes a hero quest movie that we've seen 87 times before. There's still enough originality in it. Again, the creature design, the sprite design's wonderful. It has a great message about, obviously, it's an environmental message as we become more mechanised and technology takes over more of our lives. We kind of neglect nature and we neglect the kind of mythology and folklore of nature, and the film's about that as well. There's a wonderful side plot about this writer, or there's a reporter who works for a TV network who's obsessed with the yokai or the sprites because he had an experience where he was saved from drowning by the river princess, and again a lot of thigh clutching by him as a little boy. And he gets involved with the story. There's a lot of heart to it, you know, when he finally realises he hasn't actually been going insane all of his life and he hadn't really imagined it. He finally sees them at the end of the film, which is, it's a lovely moment. It does have a kind of bittersweet coda, but then it does have a, oh, maybe there'll be a sequel, but obviously it took 16 years to actually have a sequel. So it'll be interesting to see if we ever actually get a physical media release of that, because obviously Miike films, you don't always get a release of them, because I would like to meet or hear of somebody who's seen every single Takashi Miike film, because that would probably be in the Guinness Book of Records. But the Great Yokai War, which as far as I'm aware is just available on DVD, could probably do a Blu-ray, because there's wonderful colours, tremendous set pieces, the villains are threatening enough, creature design's wonderful, like I said, the two songs are fantastic, and it doesn't have an annoying child actor in it, which is always a start. So thanks very much for watching this random review of the Great Yokai War. Please let me know if you've seen the Great Yokai War and what you thought of it, what's your favourite creature design, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.